This is William Robinson with ViralHair.com, and today we're speaking to...
KM Tolan.
Hey, Mr. Tolan, when I walked past your booth, I was fascinated with the fact that you have trains all over your booth, which is not normal for a convention. Why is that? I mean, what's behind that?
Well, it all started out in Canada, I suppose. I was riding on a train and looked out and saw nice mist and the deer traveling a creek and thought, that looks like we're going through another world. And the imagination caught up with me. The next thing I know, I was writing a series called Hobohemia. Various train stories that I pulled from the net. My brother, who worked with trains and other folks like that, railroad tales, pretty much untapped territory. So I've done well with it so far.
And so, how many books in your train series? I mean, how did it start out, and where's it going?
Well, I got 3 books right now. It started out with Tracks, which was about a young man when he was 12 years old, saw a 7-year-old sister get swept up by one of those phantom trains that you hear about, those stories. Well, 10 years later, he rediscovers those tracks and goes down to find out what happened to her, and also find out what happened to his father who went out looking for him. It's very much a family redemption story, I guess you could call it that. Right now, I got about 3 books. I got one more coming out at the end of this year, late August at the earliest, and it's called Rail Baron, and it follows a young man who is going to try and rebuild the old Reading Railroad, which was the oldest and first railroad in the United States. But of course, he's doing it in this land of Hobohemia, where the romance of the rails never quite died, and they still run steam engines, and they still got hobos, and I guess that's where they come from.
Okay, so what is Hobohemia, and how does that play out of the train series?
Hobohemia, I did a lot of research, too much research actually, for this series. Hobohemia is actually a word that was used by people who, they take on the romanticized idea of hobos back in the 30s and 40s. These were itinerant workers. They weren't bums. Right. And they'd run around and for a little bit of work and they'd get food and what have you. Some of them did ride the rails, and that's where I kind of started my work on. But the term itself was already in existence, mainly for a hobo get-together that they kept having in the country, and they'd refer to all things Hobohemia, and I thought, that's a good word. I guess I'll include that into my series. Much like most of the stories here actually have some basis in fact or tall tale.
Very cool. Now, do you have other books, other series you've worked on, or that's part of your production stuff?
Well, normally I was writing science fiction until this fantasy book hit me. I started out with Blade Dancer. I had a contract with that with Time Warner, and that fell through along with the Time Warner division when I suddenly got a letter saying that my editor had been sacked along with pretty much everybody else. But 2 years later, I got picked up by a Canadian firm that had been doing romance, and they wanted spread out. So I was their first sci-fi guy. Okay. And that's how Blade Dancer got started. It goes out. I didn't know if people would like it. It was my first book. You get those jitters. Yeah. So I started writing a second one, and then I get this thing. Blade Dancer gets the Epic eBook Award runner-up, which at that time, called the Eppies, was a big thing. Right. And I was floored. And the publisher went, hey, more? So I went ahead and took Waiting Weapons' idea, mixed it in with Blade Dancer, and came up with the rest of the series. And it worked so well for me that later on I did even a second series in the same universe. But Blade Dancer was really about, if you end up being the catalyst for change in your entire species, fine and dandy, but what does that do to you, your friends, your family? Yeah, I drag families and family in almost all my work. Right. Nobody's an island. Right. Nobody gets to be alone, at least most of these books. So, it's not just them, it's everybody around them that cares for them. Right, because what you do, like you said, affects everybody else along the way, so... Right, and her family, she's got a foster family, she's got an actual family. It's complicated, and they all act differently to what's happening to her. And in Blade Dancer, what's happening to her is us humans. Okay. Very lousy first contact, you might say. Okay, that does sound pretty interesting, and the family aspect, I think, would appeal to a lot of people.
Now, after the track series, is there anything else you're working on now, or is it still an ongoing thing for you?
I did the Dark Dancer series, and right now I've got a work in progress, tentatively called Drone. Looks at idea of trying to blend some old Mayan mysticism with some very hard science, as this young lady slowly but surely finds herself in a position where she's going to lose most of her humanity, basically to save her life, but in the process she becomes more of an android than human. And the question now is, what does that do? And that mysticism that comes from her Mayan heritage, does that stay with her? And if so, what does it look like? And maybe we got science and faster than light technology all wrong, and maybe the Mayans didn't, and that's why some of them aren't here right now. There was a time in the period where a lot of that culture simply disappeared.
Right.
And although they've got reasonable explanations for it, I prefer the unreasonable one. They just got up and left the world.
There's a lot of people that think that same thing, sir. Well, thank you much for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.